Hi, this is Ken Nelson. The first part of our orientation is safety. Actually, safety is a constant. We always maintain safety, and I've got 5 simple rules to help you do that. The first rule is that we're going to treat all guns as if they're loaded. All of them. Don't believe it when somebody tells you, oh, it's unloaded. Don't believe that you remember that you unloaded your gun, especially if you had lost physical contact with it. You don't know if somebody came in and loaded it. Treat all guns as loaded. Now, because all guns are loaded, we need to know a safe direction to point them in case for some reason they go off. Now, the first step, and this is one that a lot of people skip, is that you should know your safe direction before you touch the gun. Super important. About 100% of people skip this. They grab the gun and then think about it. So because we're going to treat all guns as loaded, we're going to know our safe direction before we touch or access the gun. And then once we have the gun in our possession, we're going to ensure that we point the gun in that safe direction that we identified all the time. All the time. Now, what is a safe direction? Basically, it's a direction that if the gun for some reason went off, nobody would be hurt. That's the very simple definition of it. Now, I'm sitting in one of our larger conference rooms here at my office, and there's people that way. I don't know what's that way. It's an outdoor courtyard. Could be people there. Definitely people that way. I heard them. Behind here is our office kitchen. Back there are more offices. So within just this sweep, there's probably 50 people that I could harm if this gun went off, if I weren't careful about my safe direction. Now, extending that, if I were to point the gun this way, do a mile radius, and everybody within that radius is at risk. So that's not a safe direction either. As best I can tell right now, since this is a 1-level building, that way is the safe direction. So I'm going to manage my gun and point it that way all the time. Now the next rule, because we're treating all guns as loaded, we know our safe direction, we're going to point the gun in the safe direction. The next rule is that we're going to keep the finger on the side of the gun. This works with handguns, shotguns, rifles, carbines, flamethrowers. Put your finger positively on the side. I like to add that we're going to keep our wrists stiff. The way to find this position, just point. You know where your finger is. I'm pointing. I know where my finger is, and I'm not going to do that with a floppy wrist. So the way to implement this correctly is with a stiff wrist like you're pointing, finger extended on the side, and that way I always know my safe direction, and I know from a lifetime of pointing that the gun, which is connected to my finger that I'm pointing, is pointed in the safe direction. Now, the other benefit of finger on the side is that the gun won't go off because I'm not near the trigger. That's how guns fire. They go off when you pull the trigger. Some versions of the safety rules have you keep your finger off the trigger. But there's a lot of definitions of that, or implementations of that meet that definition. This is off, that's off, and it's so easy to bump and get in it. I prefer to teach positively about what I really want you to do. Stiffened wrist, finger on the side. I'm also, just as an aside, I'm also maintaining most of my strong hand grip pressure at this point because I like to hold the gun the way I aim it. All right, so the finger on the side is going to know, that's going to help us know where we're pointed, and it's going to make sure the finger doesn't get on the trigger and make the gun go off. Now the final thing is bullets are going fast, they go through targets, and they go a long way if you miss. So we need to know that our target is what we intend to shoot, and we need to know what's behind the target for a good distance. Okay, I prefer to shoot at berms that are packed earth. Best thing we know to stop a bullet is loosely packed earth. That's why we dig foxholes in the Army. All right, so once again, these rules all chain together. We're going to treat all guns as loaded. All guns. Because they're loaded, we don't want them to go, if they go off, we want them to be safe. So we're first going to identify a safe direction. We're going to use our finger and a stiff wrist to keep that gun pointed in that safe direction all the time. Another benefit and another requirement is that the finger is going to be on the side, which also keeps our finger off the trigger. Finally, once we decide to shoot, we're going to know for sure that that target is a safe target or the intended target. And we're going to think hard about what's behind that target if we miss or if the bullet goes through the target. So that's the safety rules. Now in our orientation class, we always have homework because we're trying to build in key ways of thinking and key muscle and habits, muscle memories and habits that will give you a lifetime of safe, effective shooting. So your homework is at home, work, and in your car, identify safe directions. That's all I want you to do. Think about your safe directions. What are my safe directions in my apartment? What are my safe directions in my home? What are my safe directions should I have to manipulate my carry gun at work? How am I going to do this in my car? For extra credit, just extend that. If you go to a restaurant, what would I do? If you're at a hotel, how would I do it at this hotel? Prior planning prevents poor performance. Knowing your safe direction is a key step that most people miss, and that is your homework for this first orientation lesson. Thank you. I'll see you on the range.